let me first, of course, congratulate and thank Bernard and your team, and colleagues, for providing one of the most stimulating books I've read in a long time. The beginning, I think, of a journey of one of the most important conversations we will have this 21st century. It will certainly be as important and as connected as the debate on climate change. So we know we have a broken financial system, and it needs to be repaired, and it needs to be made fit for purpose. And I think that is as big a challenge on the horizon, short-term horizon, if you happen to be Greek especially, or European, but as part of the global system, we need to change our monetary system, our money system, and our financial system. I also want to thank you, Mark, for inviting me here, for your outstanding leadership to the EU chapter, and for bringing this book, the first, I think, from, not just two. You've done a wonderful job, and it's much appreciated by all of us in the world, so thank you very much. And of course, the Finance Watch and the Business Academy, many thanks for your support. We clearly live in the midst of a financial crisis, and I think this book provides the platform and the opportunity for us to understand the role of financial markets, the role of money. As Bernard says, others have said, money is the least understood part of financial markets in some sense, paradoxically. And to explore new paradigms, and I think that's going to be one of the very exciting journeys we will use this book for, to explore new experiments, new paradigms. And when we have 452, I think is the number, financial crises over the same period we've had limits to grow, over 10 a year, as is mentioned in the book. And when we look at some of the other crises, the climate change crisis, the food crisis, the crisis of security that we are seeing unfolding tragically in some parts of the world, we can ask ourselves, I think, three questions. The first is that they are probably interconnected. It is very important not to think of the climate change crisis over here and the money, financial crisis over there. If you don't have the money, you will not get the technological changes that we require. They're very connected. The second is that once you start looking at these things, you begin to realize what we in the Common Room call root causes. There are similar root causes to these crises. Bernard calls them structural deficiencies, the same, I think the same concept. And the third is climate change is not the only thing that is anthropogenic. It is us humans who've screwed up our systems, and it is us humans who can fix them. And neither economics, nor money, nor finance is Newtonian physics. It is human created, and as human created, we have to find the solutions, and I believe we will. And this book is an excellent start in that direction. I think the book also takes us back to ask some fundamental questions. And what is the purpose of money? What is the purpose of a financial and banking sector? We sometimes don't ask those fundamental questions. We know the solution, now let's analyze the problem. I think we have to get down to some fundamentals as humans and ask, what do we want a financial sector to do? What do we want money to do? And let me at least speculate on what we don't want it to do. We don't want it to become an end and not a means to something else. And our financial sector has become an end in and of itself. The $4 trillion that Bernard talks about, of which 2% squeezes into the real economy, is a good example. The massive, I didn't even realize it was this big, 600 trillion you talk about of derivatives. These are big numbers by any standard. We don't want a casino, we don't want a new form of Russian roulette, perhaps called Greek roulette, which is the banking and financial and money system is a casino. It was never intended that way. Our economist forefathers, Adam Smith and others, they never saw markets as a place to speculate and place a bet. They saw it as a place to get reason, prudence, that the marriage of people who wanted goods and services that they needed would be supplied at a reasonable and clear and transparent price. So money begetting money and not squeezing it into the real economy seems to me to be one of the huge challenges we face. And we've seen divorce, we've written about a triple divorce, one between the financial sector and the real economy. And I think this is a massive challenge that has to be put absolutely firmly on the agenda. It's interesting to me to read much about the Euro crisis and the Greek crisis, about how little is talked about what do we need to do to get money finance to small and medium enterprises, to get them going. The engines of growth, the engines of jobs as well. We've lost sight of that, it seems to me. We've also seen a divorce between economy and employment. Employment is a sort of tail-end thing that comes out of misguided economics. And we've clearly seen a divorce between economy and ecology. We tend to tax the things we in fact want more of, clean air, less greenhouse gases, and we tend to subsidize the things we want more of, or tax the things we want more of, I beg your pardon, such as employment and jobs. So I think we've got to a point where economy has to become, for the financial sector has to become the servant of economy, and the servant of economy the economy has to become the servant of people's needs and aspirations for a better life. So we need a re-engineering where finance is linked with economy, which is linked with society, which is linked with our natural system. And we have to think of that holistically. Let me, in my few minutes, just conclude with what I see as 6 takeaways for us in our work program, because as I say, Bernard, you've set us on a course, you've handed the baton, we now have to drill down on some of these ideas. I'm very taken with the sort of systems thinking that is embedded often in cybernetics studies and the like, of the link between efficiency and resiliency, which is driven by diversity. You make the point that we need a monetary ecology which brings together the balance between efficiency, effectiveness and resiliency, and that often is diversity. But also I think you make the point our system needs stability, needs an end to the damaging casino banking mentality we've seen. It needs an end to short-termism. If we are going to deal with the issues of ecological resilience, climate change, if we are going to deal with the issues of the 2080 fix, the poor world, which is 80% of the population and access to about 20% of the funds, the money available, we need long-term, stable and long-term solutions. So we need to move away from short-termism into long-termism. We need balance. And we need an end to the tail ending of the extreme poverty and the extreme wealth that I think will destroy our monetary and financial systems and in turn some of our societies. I think we need a system that prices reflect the real values to society, such as natural and human capital. We misprice because we misvalue, and by misvaluing we miss opportunities to correct a system that is out of balance, when it makes more sense to go to war to commit a crime and chop beautiful forests down because it adds to GDP, rather than manage them carefully. It makes no intuitive sense, yet it makes lots of financial sense to a very small number of people. We've got to change that. I think we've got to get an explicit recognition increasingly of the public good nature of economics and how our monetary systems can capture that public good. Everything we do affects, in one way or another, a public good. No, there's no such thing in today's world as a purely public good or a purely private good. There's an intermingling. How we think of risk and reward situations and systems that in monetary terms, financial terms, can get an appropriate reflection of that seems to me a challenge. Fifth, I think our system needs the kind of creativity that Bernard and his team raise in the book. New experiments, the dualistic currency experiments. Interesting enough, I was just saying to Bernard, I read and heard about, I just came from Dublin this morning, an experiment in a small town just south of Belfast that has actually decided to have a dual currency and is basing it on a Spanish experiment. People, I think it was designed, by the way, by a 21-year-old student. I'm yet to discover whether he's an economist or an engineer or an ecologist, but I don't know. But it seems to me that creativity that moves us to the front line of sustainability and away from the back line of the kinds of speculation that we have seen in the casino banking world. And finally, I do believe that this book should and must generate another conversation. There is a tendency to look at transformative issues in the world we live in terms of technological change. It's all about technology that will change the world. And there's a certain truth. If we look at the history of technological change from the wheel to the internet, technology has changed. And let's never forget that ideas can be just as transformative. The normative conversations of the value we place on change is going to be important. And one of the values that we have to look at is, what do we want our financial system, our banking and monetary system, together with our economic system, to deliver for us and our children and their children. And I think if we can encourage that debate, Bernard, we'll have gone a long way to making a very big difference. I think it's a wonderful book. I want to congratulate you again, you and your team. And from my side and from the Club of Rome, and I know working with Mark, we will do everything we can to publicise it, to get the debate going that it deserves. So again, thank you for a very marvellous effort. Thank you very much.